The Zalari capital planet, Cytheria, gleamed like a jewel in the endless void of space. Towering crystal spires reflected the light of twin suns, and hovercraft zipped through the sky in perfect order. From orbit, the city looked like a living, breathing organism, full of energy and precision. Humans rarely traveled here, and most who did were diplomats, traders, or security officers like Ethan Cole. Ethan was neither a diplomat nor a trader. He was a human tasked with guarding rare cargo on interstellar routes. He had learned long ago that humans were often underestimated in the galaxy. Aliens considered them weak, slow, and fragile. But Ethan knew the truth. Humans were resourceful, clever, and tougher than most species gave them credit for. This routine transport mission had seemed simple at first. His freighter, a sturdy ship with reinforced hull plating, glided smoothly through the upper atmosphere of Cytheria. Ethan monitored the control panels, checking sensors and scanning the skies for any unusual activity. The only sounds were the hum of the engines and the soft clicks of the instruments. Then it happened. A sudden flash of light streaked across the sky. Ethan's sensors detected multiple fast-moving vessels approaching the capital's royal convoy. These weren't ordinary ships. They were armed, sleek, and clearly designed for combat. He immediately recognized the danger. "Red alert," he muttered to himself, fingers dancing across the controls. Time to see what humans are really made of. He maneuvered his freighter closer to the convoy. The Zalari vessels, elegant and crystalline, were struggling to respond to the attack. Explosions flashed across the horizon as laser fire tore through the sky. Panic spread among the convoy pilots, who had never faced such unexpected aggression. Ethan's eyes caught a movement on the largest vessel, a tall, graceful figure trapped on an observation deck. She wore the elegant robes of royalty, and her blue-scaled skin shimmered in the sunlight. This had to be Princess Lyra Zalari, heir to the Zalari throne. Without hesitation, Ethan fired up his ship's booster thrusters and leaped into the chaos. The freighter moved like a predator among the enemy ships, dodging laser blasts and weaving through debris. Within moments, he reached the princess's ship and activated the emergency docking clamps. The ship rocked violently as the freighter latched onto it, but Ethan held firm. The docking corridor opened and he stepped inside. His eyes scanned the hull, taking in the scene. Sparks flew from damaged panels, alarms blared, and crew members scrambled to contain the chaos. Then he saw her. Lyra's wide, violet eyes locked onto him, filled with fear and surprise. She stepped back instinctively, glancing at the damaged corridor, then back at him. "You're human," she said, her voice a mix of disbelief and caution. "Can you protect me?" Ethan smiled slightly. He could sense her doubt. Most aliens looked at humans and assumed they were fragile. She had no idea what he was capable of. "I'll do my best," he said simply, not wanting to boast. His confidence came from experience, not ego. Before Lyra could respond, the ship lurched violently. One of the enemy vessels had caught up and fired a concentrated energy beam. The wall of the corridor cracked, sending sparks and shards of metal flying. Ethan reacted instantly. He grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her behind a bulkhead, using his body as a shield. The blast hit the wall with a deafening roar, and Ethan could feel the heat through his armor. Lyra gasped, eyes wide. You didn't even move." "I moved just enough," Ethan said calmly. "The rest is timing and positioning." The princess blinked, struggling to understand. Humans were fragile, she thought. They couldn't survive what she had just seen. And yet here was a human standing unharmed, shielding her without hesitation. There was no time for questions. Ethan grabbed a portable weapon from his belt, a compact, multi-purpose energy rifle, and took aim at the approaching enemy ship. With precise movements, he fired, hitting the ship's propulsion system. The vessel spun out of control and collided with another, creating a small chain reaction. The convoy had a chance to regroup. Lyra stared at him astonished. "You saved us." "All of us?" Ethan nodded. "For now. We need to get you to safety before they regroup." They moved quickly through the corridors. Ethan's hands were steady, his senses alert. He could feel every vibration in the ship, hear the smallest shift of metal, and anticipate danger before it arrived. Lyra followed closely, her initial skepticism slowly turning into awe. "You humans are stronger than I thought," she admitted quietly, glancing at his calm expression. Ethan chuckled softly. "We're good at surviving. Sometimes that looks like strength, As they reached the bridge, they were confronted by a squad of mercenaries who had boarded the ship. Ethan didn't hesitate. With careful precision, he used his rifle, combined with martial skill, to disarm and incapacitate the attackers. They moved like a wave, but Ethan moved faster, stronger, and smarter. Lyra could only watch, unable to believe the human in front of her was accomplishing what would have required 3 Zalari soldiers. When the last attacker fell, Ethan turned to Lyra. She was pale, shaking slightly but safe. "You're incredible," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I never imagined a human could do this." Ethan smiled again, but he didn't have time for compliments. "We're not done yet. The convoy is still under attack. We need to get you out of the capital before more of them arrive." Lyra nodded, her fear slowly replaced by determination. She realized that she could trust this human, not just with her life, but with a task that seemed impossible, protecting her people. Ethan led her to a smaller, agile escape vessel hidden in the freighter's hold. The ship was fast and durable, designed for emergency evacuations. Lyra climbed aboard hesitantly, glancing at the controls. "You know how to fly this?" she asked. Ethan smirked. "I know enough to get us out alive." With a powerful roar, the ship shot into the atmosphere, leaving the damaged convoy behind. They navigated through the dense cloud layers, dodging laser fire and enemy patrols. Lyra watched Ethan work with calm precision, his every movement controlled, confident, and efficient. She began to understand something profound. Humans were not just strong physically. They were clever, adaptable, and fearless in ways the Zalari rarely were. Hours passed as they escaped the capital. The enemy forces continued their pursuit, but Ethan's skills kept them out of harm's way. In the quiet moments, Lyra finally allowed herself to speak more freely. "Tell me," she said, her eyes fixed on the stars outside the viewport. "How did you become so capable, so strong?" Ethan shrugged lightly. "Humans survive because we have to. We adapt, we fight, and we find ways to—" The asteroid field stretched out before them like a floating maze of jagged rocks and drifting debris. Shadows danced across the small escape vessel as it darted between massive stones, twisting and turning with impossible precision. The distant light of Zetheria's twin suns glinted off the metal hull, creating brief flashes that made the ship look like a shooting star. Ethan Cole, calm and focused, gripped the controls with steady hands. Every movement was precise, every decision calculated. Lyra Zalari sat beside him, her tail curled tightly around her legs, eyes wide as she watched the maneuvering. She had never seen a human pilot handle such chaos. "You're incredible," she whispered, more to herself than to him. Ethan glanced at her, offering a small smile. "We adapt. You'll see humans can handle situations most species run from." Lyra bit her lip, still trying to process what had just happened at Zetheria. The capital had been attacked, the royal convoy destroyed or scattered, and yet she was alive thanks to this human. She had spent her entire life believing humans were fragile. She had assumed strength came from size, technology, or advanced alien genes, but Ethan had shown her something else entirely: courage, ingenuity, and unwavering determination. The silence between them was broken only by the hum of the engines and the occasional crackle from the ship's damaged communication system. Ethan scanned the asteroid field, eyes flicking to every sensor and display. "Enemy ships are still following," he said, his voice calm. "They're faster than us, but we can use the asteroids to slow them down. They won't be able to maneuver as well." Lyra's violet eyes widened. "You're using the environment against them?" Ethan nodded. "Always. Adapt or die. That's how humans survive." Lyra thought about her life as a princess. She had been trained in diplomacy, etiquette, and leadership, but she had never been taught how to survive against overwhelming odds. Yet here was a human, navigating chaos with ease, protecting her without hesitation and surviving impossible situations. As the minutes turned into hours, Lyra began to observe Ethan more closely. She noticed the subtle way he adjusted the ship's trajectory to avoid debris, the careful timing of his maneuvers to avoid enemy sensors, and the quick, fluid way he responded to unexpected threats. He was more than strong, he was brilliant. Finally, after a tense hour, Ethan brought the ship to a temporary stop behind a massive asteroid. The enemy vessels had lost sight of them, and the asteroid provided excellent cover. Lyra let out a small sigh of relief, though her heart was still racing. "Why are you helping me?" she asked quietly. "You don't even know me." Ethan looked at her for a moment before answering. "Because it's the right thing to do. You're in danger. You need protection. That's all that matters to me." Lyra studied him, trying to find a hint of deceit or selfishness, but there was none. He was genuine, honest, and fearless in a way she had never encountered. For the first time, she began to see humans not as weak creatures, but as beings of incredible potential. They moved deeper into the asteroid field, using it to hide from the enemy ships. Ethan guided the vessel skillfully, weaving through narrow passages and avoiding massive rocks that could crush them in an instant. Lyra watched his every move, fascinated by his calm focus. After some time, they found a small abandoned space station nestled between two asteroids. It was old and partially damaged, but it offered shelter and a place to regroup. Ethan docked the ship carefully, and they stepped inside. The station was quiet and eerie, its lights flickering and the air filled with the smell of old machinery. Ethan activated a few panels, bringing power to essential systems. Lyra followed him, her curiosity slowly overcoming her fear. "You do more than fight," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "You repair, navigate, strategize. Humans are remarkable." Ethan shrugged. "We survive because we have to. Strength comes in many forms, not just muscles or weapons. Adaptability, courage, and thinking ahead. Those are the things that keep us alive." Lyra nodded slowly. She thought of her people, her training, and the constant belief that they were the strongest in the galaxy. Yet, watching Ethan, she realized humans possessed a kind of strength that was rare, even among the most advanced civilizations. As they explored the station, they found supplies, old energy cells, and a map of nearby star systems. Ethan studied it carefully, plotting a safe course to the next friendly outpost. Lyra watched in awe as he calculated routes, estimated travel times, and prepared for potential ambushes. "You make it look easy," she said, her voice a mixture of admiration and disbelief. Ethan smiled faintly. "It's not easy. It just looks easy when you know what you're doing." Hours passed, and the two of them began to talk more. Lyra shared stories of her life as a princess, her responsibilities, and her fears. Ethan listened quietly, offering advice when appropriate, but mostly letting her speak. She realized that he had a rare gift, not just physical strength or tactical skill, but the ability to listen, understand, and guide without arrogance. "You humans," she said finally, looking at him with a mixture of respect and amazement. "You're nothing like I imagined. You're extraordinary." Ethan chuckled softly. "We're not perfect, but when it matters, we rise to the occasion. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. That's what makes us strong." Lyra thought about the attack on Cytheria, the destruction of the convoy, and the mercenaries who had tried to kill her. She realized that without Ethan, she would not have survived. Her people's future, and perhaps even the survival of her entire planet, depended on humans like him. Suddenly, the station's sensors picked up movement outside. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "We're not alone. Mercenaries may have followed us here." Lyra tensed. "What do we do?" Ethan moved to a control panel, activating defensive systems. "We hold position for now. Let them make the first move. Then we act." Minutes later, small energy drones appeared outside the station, scanning the area. Ethan monitored their movements, then activated a countermeasure. The drones were disabled silently, without alerting any larger forces. Lyra watched, her mouth slightly open in amazement. "You humans. You think ahead, anticipate, and act before anyone else can even react," she said, her voice filled with awe. Ethan looked at her calmly. "That's how we survive. Adaptability is our greatest strength. Muscle alone isn't enough." The rest of the night passed in careful preparation. Ethan repaired the ship as best as he could, mapped out safe travel, routes, and ensured that Lyra was ready for whatever came next. They shared stories. The small escape vessel glided silently through the dark expanse of space. Stars glittered like distant jewels, but the darkness between them held danger. Ethan Cole sat at the controls, eyes scanning the sensors. Beside him, Princess Lyra Zalari stared at the screens, still trying to understand the human who had saved her life. "This route will take us to a safe outpost," Ethan said calmly. "But it's not guaranteed. The enemy is skilled and they won't give up easily." Lyra nodded, her tail flicking nervously. "I don't understand. Why would anyone attack us? My people are peaceful. We haven't provoked anyone." Ethan shook his head. "It's never that simple. Some groups see power as weakness and royalty as a prize. You were their target because of what you represent." The princess looked down, conflicted. She had always believed her position gave her security. Now she understood how fragile it really was. And yet beside her, Ethan seemed untouchable, calm, strong, and completely in control. Hours passed as they traveled through the empty corridors of space. Ethan taught her some basic survival and combat techniques. It was more than skill. It was strategy, adaptability, and quick thinking. Lyra struggled at first, but Ethan's patience and guidance allowed her to learn quickly. "You humans have a strange kind of strength," she said finally. "Not like the Zalari. Different. You adapt instead of relying on power or technology." Ethan glanced at her with a small smile. "That's exactly it. We survive because we must. Strength is more than muscles or weapons. It's mind, heart, and courage combined." Lyra studied him quietly. She had thought humans were fragile. Now she saw a species capable of facing impossible odds and thriving, and she felt a small spark of hope for her people. Suddenly, the sensors beeped loudly. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Movement. Not ours. Outside the ship, a massive structure appeared, a hidden fortress built on a small rocky planet. The design was unfamiliar, alien, and dangerous. Ethan's fingers danced across the controls as he zoomed in on the readings. "This isn't just a random attack," he said. "They're organized. Someone built this, and they're planning more than just harassment." Lyra's eyes widened. "A base here?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, and if we don't act, they will attack Zetheria again, or worse, take control of your people." The princess's heart raced. She had never seen a human react with such calm certainty in the face of danger. She realized that humans were unpredictable in ways even her people could not anticipate. Ethan studied the fortress carefully. "It's heavily fortified, but every structure has weaknesses. We need to find a way in, gather information, and stop them before it's too late." Lyra nodded, a new sense of purpose filling her. She had spent her life relying on others to protect her, but now she could see that humans like Ethan were more than capable, and maybe, just maybe, she could learn to be strong as well. They landed the ship on the rocky surface of the planet, hidden behind a ridge that blocked the fortress from view. Ethan led Lyra through the rough terrain, careful to stay out of sight of patrols. Every movement was calculated, precise, and silent. Lyra followed closely, trusting his every step. Hours of careful reconnaissance passed. Ethan observed patrol patterns, identified weak points, and mapped the fortress's layout. Lyra was amazed by his memory, focus, and ability to anticipate enemy moves. He was teaching her more than survival. He was showing her what true strength looked like. Finally, night fell. The two of them crouched on a rocky outcrop overlooking the fortress. Ethan studied the movement of guards, drones, and sentries. Lyra's tail twitched nervously. "Are you sure this is safe?" she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. "Nothing is guaranteed, but we'll be ready." They moved closer to the fortress under the cover of darkness. Ethan disabled security cameras with a small device, and Lyra watched in awe. This human was not only strong, but clever, capable of solving problems in ways she had never imagined. As they infiltrated the outer walls, a small patrol approached. Ethan signaled for Lyra to hide. Within moments, he used a combination of human speed, strength, and strategy to incapacitate the guards silently. Lyra's eyes widened. Humans were strong, yes, but they were also fast, clever, and unpredictable. Once inside the fortress, they discovered something alarming. The base was filled with weapons, data terminals, and communication devices linking to a rival empire. The mercenaries were not acting alone. They were backed by a powerful force seeking to destabilize Zetheria and overthrow the royal family. Lyra's mind raced. They want to destroy my people. Everything I've worked for. All of it is in danger. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We'll stop them. You need to stay focused and follow my lead. Panic won't help. They carefully navigated the hallways, avoiding patrols and cameras. Ethan's strength and skill were evident at every step. He carried Lyra across dangerous gaps, lifted debris to create safe paths, and neutralized threats with precision. Lyra began to see the full extent of human capability. Humans might be smaller or weaker in appearance, but their resourcefulness and courage were unmatched. At the central control hub, they discovered plans for a massive attack on Scifi. Drones, weapons shipments, and saboteurs were all scheduled to strike within days. Ethan studied the data carefully, analyzing every detail. They want to cripple your planet before you can respond, he said. But they underestimated humans. They underestimated us. Lyra looked at him astonished. How can you be so confident? Even the strongest Zalari wouldn't survive this alone. Ethan smiled faintly. We don't act alone. And humans. We find ways to succeed even when the odds are impossible. As they prepared to leave, an alarm blared suddenly. Ethan's eyes narrowed. They've detected something. We need to move now. They ran through the corridors, facing a group of mercenaries blocking their exit. Ethan's human strength and quick thinking made the difference. He disarmed and incapacitated them, moving faster and smarter than anyone Lyra had ever seen. She realized that humans were not just strong. They were a force that could change outcomes in ways others could not predict. Finally, they reached their ship and took off, leaving the fortress behind. Lyra watched the planet disappear below them, a mix of fear and awe in her heart. She had never imagined that a human could do what Ethan had done. Navigate the fortress, gather vital intelligence, and survive encounters that would have killed anyone else. Humans are extraordinary, she said quietly. Ethan glanced at her, calm as always. We survive because we must. That's all there is to it. Lyra nodded, understanding now that strength was more than physical power. Humans had courage, adaptability, and ingenuity. And Ethan Cole, the human who had saved her life and exposed the hidden threat, embodied all of these qualities. As they left the planet behind and set a course for a safe location, Lyra's mind was filled with questions and ideas. She had underestimated the stars stretched endlessly ahead as Ethan Cole piloted the small vessel, taking careful, evasive maneuvers. Princess Lyra Zalari sat beside him, her eyes scanning the displays. Both of them knew the next step would be dangerous. Their destination was the enemy's throne world, a massive, war-ready planet at the edge of the rival empire's territory. This is where it ends, Ethan said quietly, his eyes calm but alert. We confront the leaders and we stop this before your people suffer more. Lyra swallowed hard, her tail flicking nervously. Are you sure we can do this? The enemy, they are powerful more than anything I've seen. Ethan glanced at her. We have to. And humans. We don't give up when the odds are against us. That's what makes us strong. The journey to the throne world was tense. Enemy patrols scanned the space lanes, but Ethan's skillful piloting kept them hidden. He guided the ship through asteroid belts, dark nebulae, and narrow gravity wells, always anticipating danger before it arrived. Lyra watched in awe, realizing again that human strength was not just physical. It was strategy, quick thinking, and adaptability combined. Finally, they reached orbit around the throne world. The planet was enormous, with sprawling industrial complexes, weapons facilities, and defensive fleets ready to attack anyone who approached. Ethan studied the sensors. We can't just land openly. The defenses will destroy us instantly. We need a diversion. Lyra's eyes widened. A diversion? Against that fleet? Ethan nodded. Humans don't always fight head-on. Sometimes we use brains over brawn. Follow my lead. He activated a small fleet of automated drones hidden in the asteroid belt nearby. They created false sensor signatures, drawing the enemy's attention. The rival empire's fleet reacted immediately, launching patrol ships to intercept the drones. Lyra watched as Ethan calmly guided their ship toward the planet's surface, weaving through enemy fire and using the planet's terrain to hide. Humans are fearless, she whispered. Ethan smiled faintly. We survive by facing fear, not running from it. They landed on the planet in a hidden canyon, where massive cliffs provided cover from enemy sensors. Ethan led Lyra through rough terrain, using natural rock formations and abandoned industrial structures to move closer to the central command facility. Hours passed as they avoided patrols and security drones. Lyra noticed that Ethan never hesitated, never panicked, and never doubted himself. He was a combination of strength, intelligence, and calm determination that she had never seen in any Zalari soldier or leader. Finally, they reached the central control hub, a massive building of dark steel and glowing energy conduits. Ethan signaled for Lyra to stay close as they entered, careful to avoid detection. Inside, they discovered the enemy leader, a towering figure surrounded by heavily armed guards. The rival emperor's lieutenant, a merciless strategist, was coordinating the final stages of the plan to destroy Zytheria. Lyra's heart raced. "We can't fight them. Not like this." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We don't have to fight like them. We fight smart. Follow my instructions and we'll win." The confrontation began. Ethan used a combination of human ingenuity and physical skill to neutralize guards silently and quickly. Lyra watched, amazed, as he moved faster than anyone could anticipate, dodging attacks, disarming enemies, and using the environment to his advantage. Humans, she realized, were unpredictable in ways that no alien army could fully prepare for. Finally, Ethan faced the enemy lieutenant directly. The lieutenant was large, heavily armored, and confident in his strength. But Ethan's calm eyes and precise movements made him unstoppable. He used the lieutenant's own momentum against him, striking with pinpoint accuracy and disarming him in moments. Lyra gasped, realizing that Ethan's strength was more than muscle. It was intelligence, strategy, and courage combined. Humans didn't rely on size or technology alone. They used every resource, every advantage, and every instinct to survive and win. With the lieutenant incapacitated, Ethan moved to the central control terminal. He quickly uploaded a virus into the enemy's systems, disabling weapon platforms, cutting communications, and preventing the fleet from organizing a counterattack. Lyra watched, amazed, as one human single-handedly dismantled the enemy's plans. The enemy soldiers were in chaos. Without leadership and coordination, their advantage vanished. Ethan and Lyra moved swiftly, disabling remaining security measures and clearing the area of threats. Every move Ethan made demonstrated the human combination of skill, strength, and intelligence that had saved them countless times before. Finally, they confronted the rival emperor via a secure communication link. Ethan spoke calmly but firmly. "Your plan to destroy Zytheria ends now. You underestimate humans, and that will be your downfall." The emperor sneered, confident in his power. "You are only one human. You cannot stop me." Ethan smiled faintly. "One human, yes. But humans act together, and we think faster than you can anticipate. Your plan is finished." Within moments, the virus completed its work. The Emperor's fleet was disabled, weapons offline, and communications cut. He realized too late that he had underestimated not only Ethan but the resourcefulness and strength of humanity. Lyra watched in awe. She had known humans were brave, but she had never seen such complete mastery of skill, intelligence, and courage. Ethan had proven that humans were extraordinary, not because of size or weapons, but because of heart, determination, and adaptability. As the threat ended, Ethan turned to Lyra. She was shaking slightly, still processing what had just happened. "Your people are safe," he said simply. "For now." Lyra looked at him, eyes wide with admiration. You saved my planet, Ethan. I don't know how to thank you." Ethan shrugged. "No need. Protecting others is its own reward. That's what humans do." For the first time, Lyra truly understood the full extent of human strength. It was not just physical. It was mental, emotional, and strategic. Humans could face impossible odds, think faster than any enemy, and act with courage even in the face of overwhelming danger. The journey back to Zytheria was calm, though tension remained. Ethan piloted the ship carefully, ensuring they avoided any remaining enemy patrols. Lyra sat quietly thinking about what she had witnessed. Her respect for humans had grown into awe. She realized that humanity, underestimated by most species, had a power that no one could ignore. When they returned to Zytheria, the planet was preparing for the next phase of recovery. Ethan helped coordinate the defense systems, working alongside Lyra and her advisors. Together, they strengthened the planet's defenses and ensured the safety of its citizens. Lyra finally spoke, her voice filled with newfound determination. "Humans are extraordinary, and I have learned more from you than I ever could from anyone else." Ethan smiled faintly, We rise to challenges, protect those who need us, and never give up. That's all we do, Lyra nodded. She now understood that strength was not measured only by power, size, or technology. It was measured by courage, intelligence, adaptability, and the will to survive. Ethan had shown her the true meaning of strength, and she would carry that lesson with her forever. The people of Scifi were safe, thanks to one human who had shown them what humans were capable of. And Lyra knew that humanity, underestimated for so long, would continue to surprise the galaxy with their courage and determination. The crystalline towers of Scifi's capital gleamed in the light of the twin suns. The city had survived the attacks, but the damage was still evident. Streets were filled with workers repairing infrastructure, and citizens moved carefully through areas still affected by the chaos. Princess Lyra Zalari stood on a balcony overlooking the city. Her tail flicked slowly as she observed the recovery. Beside her, Ethan Cole stood silently watching the same view. He had spent the past days helping coordinate defenses, repair damaged systems, and ensure that the citizens were safe. "You've done so much," Lyra said quietly. Her voice carried awe, respect, and gratitude. "Your people, humans, are unlike anything I imagined." Ethan shook his head slightly. "I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because it was the right thing to do. That's what humans do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves." Lyra smiled faintly, remembering all the moments he had saved her life. From the initial attack on the royal convoy to the hidden fortress and the confrontation with the rival empire, Ethan had always been calm, capable, and strong. She had begun to see humanity not as a fragile species, but as one capable of extraordinary feats. "You've changed the way I see humans," she admitted. "I once thought you were weak, but now I know how strong you truly are, not just in battle, but in heart, mind, and courage." Ethan's expression remained humble. Strength comes in many forms. Sometimes the smallest, most unexpected individuals can change the outcome of great battles. Lyra nodded thoughtfully. She realized that human strength was different from the Zalari. While the Zalari relied on technology, size, and discipline, humans combined intellect, courage, and adaptability to overcome challenges, and Ethan was the perfect example of that. Suddenly, the city's alarm systems beeped faintly, signaling a minor disturbance in one of the districts. Citizens were trapped in a partially collapsed building due to damage from earlier attacks. Without hesitation, Ethan sprang into action. "Stay here," he said to Lyra. "I'll handle this." Before she could respond, he moved with speed and precision, navigating the debris-strewn streets. Using his strength, he lifted heavy pieces of rubble, cleared pathways, and guided trapped citizens to safety. Lyra followed at a distance, amazed at his calm efficiency and bravery. By the time the last citizen was safe, a small crowd had gathered. They stared at Ethan in awe, whispers spreading quickly through the streets. Humans were strong, capable, and fearless. Lyra realized that the galaxy had underestimated humans for far too long. When Ethan returned, Lyra's expression was serious, filled with newfound respect. "You didn't just save me, or the city. You've saved hope itself, my people." "They will remember this," Ethan nodded. "Humans don't act for praise. We act because it matters. Protecting others is its own reward." The princess considered the implications. With humans as allies, her people could rebuild stronger than before. She began to think about future alliances, trade, and shared protection between Scifi and humanity. "Ethan," she said thoughtfully, "I want you to know that your actions have changed more than this city. You've changed my view of the galaxy and humanity." Ethan smiled faintly. "That's good. Now it's time to focus on the future. The galaxy is full of challenges, but together, we can face them." Lyra nodded, determination in her eyes. She knew she could never rely solely on others again. She had witnessed the strength of one human, and realized that humanity itself could be a force to protect peace, freedom, and life across the stars. Days passed as the city recovered. Ethan continued to help wherever he could, but always quietly, without seeking attention. Citizens admired him for his bravery, but he never boasted. Lyra, meanwhile, worked tirelessly to rebuild her people's defenses and strengthen their knowledge of strategic planning, taking inspiration from Ethan's approach to challenges. One evening, As the twin suns set behind the crystalline towers, Lyra and Ethan walked through the city streets. Citizens waved and smiled, recognizing the human who had changed their perception of strength and courage. "You know," Lyra said, "humans, you don't just fight with weapons or strength. You fight with intelligence, courage, and heart. That's why you can achieve the impossible." Ethan glanced at her. "That's what we've always done. We don't give up. We adapt, we survive, and we protect what matters." Lyra looked thoughtful. She had once doubted humanity, believing them to be fragile and weak. But through Ethan's actions, she had learned the truth. Humans were extraordinary. And one human acting with courage, intelligence, and heart had saved her people, changed her view of the galaxy, and proven that strength was more than size or technology. It was determination, adaptability, and the will to act. The princess stopped near a plaza where children played, rebuilding small robotic models and flying miniature drones. "Perhaps," she said softly, "my people can learn from humans, not just about fighting, but about courage, adaptability, and protecting what matters." Ethan smiled faintly. "And humans can learn from others too. Strength is universal. It's about heart and action, not just species." As the sky darkened and the twin moons rose, Lyra looked at Ethan with a mixture of respect and admiration. She realized that he had shown her more than heroism. He had shown her the true meaning of strength. Humans could face impossible odds, survive, and protect what others thought impossible to save. "You've taught me a great deal," she said quietly, "and I will never forget it." Ethan shrugged lightly. "It's enough that you do what's right for your people. That's all I need." Lyra smiled faintly, feeling hope and determination fill her heart. With humans as allies, she knew Zetheria could thrive. She also knew that humanity had a strength unmatched by most species: courage, ingenuity, and the determination to protect life against all odds. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of challenges and dangers, but also full of hope. And in the quiet, glowing city, Princess Lyra Zalari finally understood the true power of humanity. Humans were strong, not just because of their bodies or weapons, but because of their hearts, their minds, and their courage. And one human, Ethan Cole, had shown her the best of what humanity could be. As the twin moons cast silver light over the crystalline towers, Lyra turned to Ethan. "The galaxy will remember humans. Thanks to you." Ethan smiled faintly, humble as always. "The galaxy will see what humans are capable of. That's all I ask." For the first time, Lyra felt a sense of true partnership with a human, not as a protector and ward, but as equals working together to ensure the survival, growth, and peace of their people. And she knew that with humans like Ethan in the galaxy, hope would always endure.